What a weekend we had in college football this past Saturday. A bunch of crazy finishes, lots of shameful endings. I'll try to recap as quick as I can. Anyway, a bunch of stuff stuck out to me this week. Let's kind of start off with just the shocker on Friday night with not only Washington beating Stanford, not only was that a shocker, but 44-6. Christian McCaffrey really struggled all night. Just the whole Stanford team had no answer for Washington all night long. That home crowd in Washington really played a huge factor, especially in the first half, as Stanford had no answer at all. Going down in the half 23-0. Just no answer. So I'm starting to buy into the Washington hype. In fact, there's a video that stuck out to me like back in June or July. Stillwater Sports Card said that Washington will be the surprise team of college football. And so far, they're the most surprising team in college football. All right, what else was crazy? California upsetting Utah. I called that one. I knew that the homecoming crowd in California was going to be a huge difference maker in that one, especially in the second half. But Utah had the chances and they couldn't convert. In fact, they had 7 plays from inside the 10-yard line on the final drive, and they could not get in. They had 7 chances to get the touchdown, but they failed. California held on. Let's see. Indiana, Michigan State. Now, that is a major upset. Indiana is a team that will basically force you to play all 60 minutes. We saw how close Indiana came to beating Michigan and Ohio State last year. And they made them earn it for all 6 minutes. And Iowa as well. Those 3 teams, they basically made them play all 60 minutes. And that's what Indiana is, a team that does. They may not win every single time, but they will make you earn the win. And it went into overtime. Michigan State misses a field goal at the start of overtime. Then Indiana has a chance to make a field goal to wrap up the game, but the kicker misses it. But Michigan State was called for a leaping penalty, giving them an automatic first down. And then later on, they made another field goal, and they won the game. Michigan State has now lost 2 games in a row, and they are looking to rebound against BYU this week, who we will talk about in a minute. However, let's kind of get to something that should have happened but didn't happen. Baylor just squeaking out Iowa State. Iowa State is another team that makes you play all 60 minutes. Iowa State they have a tendency to pull off upsets at the unexpected times. And they upset Oklahoma State when they were number 2 a couple years ago. They make players earn it. They make teams earn victories against them. Kind of like Indiana. However, Iowa State had this game won, but they just blew it in the fourth quarter. So Baylor just barely survives. And that's what the Big 12 needed, because I feel like, honestly, at this point, Baylor is the only team that can get the Big 12 in the college football playoff. Oklahoma is only ranked number 20, but they have 2 losses. And I think their chance of going to the playoff as a 2-loss team is kind of slim to none right now. Because they've already lost to Houston, who's number 6. They've already lost to Ohio State, who's number 2. And in both of those, they were just completely outplayed and outmatched, especially with the secondary. They've been humiliated both times, so I don't see that happening. So the chances are slim to none. I just feel like it's a little too late. They can win out, but it would still be a little too late, at least in my opinion. LSU had a very emotional win against Missouri. The first game of the post-Les Miles era. They completely dominated Missouri, 35-7. Now let's get to kind of the craziest games of the week. LSU won 42-7. My bad. Now let's get to those 2 other crazy games that everyone was hyped up about. And let's get to that third one that also had the craziest ending that you've seen in college football since that 2013 Iron Bowl. Wisconsin versus Michigan. As I said, it's going to be a very low-scoring game, really down in the trenches. and Michigan ended up winning 14-7. Although I said it was going to be about 17-14. Michigan could have won by a lot more. And I think out of all the teams that won this week, I think Michigan's was the most significant. I don't think Wisconsin was exposed for anything, although I kind of did preview that could have just been a preview of what we will see in the Big Ten championship game come December. So was that part one? We will find out soon. If both teams went out, most definitely. I would love to see Wisconsin and Michigan again, especially when the stakes will be even more higher the next time, which that would have major playoff implications. All right, Tennessee and Georgia. That was the best game I've ever seen in a while. I mean, Tennessee thinks they have it won, but then they allow a huge touchdown from Jacob Eason. Just basically a Hail Mary pass with 10 seconds left. But then Georgia did what you should never do in college football. Celebrate and jump up and down and act like you just won the game. I mean, my dad has always taught me that you never jump up and celebrate act like you just won the game. You got to act like you meant to do that. And he said that Georgia deserved to lose that game because they were jumping up and down like they just won the game. Because what happened? 15-yard penalty that was enforced on the kickoff. And basically what they did is they kicked it short, and Tennessee returned all the way to the 43-yard line, which set up a Josh Dobbs Hail Mary pass to Jawan Johnson. Georgia was shamed. Tennessee barely survived, and it's setting up an epic matchup against my Texas A&M Aggies coming this Saturday. And we will preview that as long as 9 other of the great matchups this weekend. But first, let's recap Louisville versus Clemson. Many thought this would be an offensive battle, although it was very defensive in the first half. It was really defensive. No score after the first quarter. But Louisville managed to score. They managed to score first. However, there was just a bunch of sloppy play in the second quarter and in the rest of the second half of the game. Just so many turnovers. I mean, the Louisville's defense really wasn't supportive for Lamar Jackson. They just allowed Deshaun Watson extra time in the pocket. I mean, Clemson barely survived and they won at home, which they now have the longest home winning streak in college football, as Florida State lost to North Carolina on a last-second field goal, which North Carolina's kicker redeemed himself after missing an extra point prior to that. And Florida State kind of had the game won, they felt like. But then they had a pass interference penalty setting up for a game-winning 54-yard field goal. So Clemson and Florida State playing in huge games. Clemson prevailed on top. Florida State did not. As Florida State, one of my national championship team picks in the preseason, is now a 2-loss team. Anyway, let's get to the Week 6 predictions. We're starting off with a huge one. Texas versus Oklahoma. The Red River rivalry. This is going to be a huge one. Although, I think Texas's running game is going to be really efficient throughout this game. I just think Oklahoma, I think they're just fired up. I think they're trying to prove that they can still come back and get toward the top. Right now, Oklahoma's probably just playing for New Year's Six game, maybe a spot in maybe the Fiesta Bowl or something like that along those lines. They're just playing for New Year's Six right now. And I think they're going to beat Texas. I just think Texas has just gone through just so much after that Notre Dame win. It's like after the Notre Dame win, things just seem to just sink for Texas. And they lost to California and they lost to Oklahoma State. However, Charlie Strong will not be fired during the season. But I still think Oklahoma's going to win. I think this is going to be a double-digit victory for Oklahoma. I'm going to say around the edge of maybe 35-21. Though I think Texas will put up a fight. They'll hang in there throughout the first half. I think Oklahoma will find a way in the second half, especially Baker Mayfield. They'll find a way. All right, LSU versus number 18 Florida. I mean, we're still unsure if Leonard Fournette's going to play. He didn't play in the last game with an ankle injury. But I don't think it matters. I think Florida's going to win this game. I think they're going to have the home crowd of Gainesville behind them. I just think LSU's kind of a little depleted after Les Miles being fired. Sure, they manage to dominate Missouri, but it's Missouri. So I like Florida to win this one. Indiana versus number 2 Ohio State. As I said earlier in the podcast, that Indiana is a team that will make you earn it. They will make you play all 60 minutes. And I don't see any difference in this game. I mean, Indiana almost beat Ohio State last year. They only lost 34-27. But do I think they'll be 34-27? No. I think Ohio State will win by 14 points. But I think Indiana is going to end up having a lead like really early in this game. Probably a 3-0 lead in the middle of the first quarter. Then JT Barrett is going to make those plays. I like Ohio State to win. I like them to win 45 to 24. Number 25 Virginia Tech versus number 17 North Carolina in a huge ACC conference matchup. Virginia Tech is coming off pretty much a dominating win. I mean, Virginia Tech's kind of had their struggles this year so far. However, they competed with Tennessee really well early in that game in week 2. And North Carolina coming off kind of a win that they felt like maybe they shouldn't have won. Or they felt like they had lost originally but came back to win. So, is there a little mental hangover in that one? I think there will be for just a little bit, but I think in the second half, Mitch Trubisky's going to make the plays. He's going to look for Ryan Switzer. I think Elijah Hood's going to be a huge difference maker in the second half of this game. So I would like North Carolina to pull off the victory. In fact, let's not forget that this game went into overtime last year. And that was Frank Beamer's last home game. So is there a little redemption for Virginia Tech? I think this is going to be really close again this year. I'm going to say 31-28. I think North Carolina's defense is going to make a huge stop at the end of the game. BYU, Michigan State. This is a very interesting unranked matchup. This is a very interesting one. It's got its reasons for being a good matchup. BYU is a really talented team. They're trying to impress the Big 12 still. And Michigan State is trying to come off 2 straight losses. One blowout loss to Wisconsin 30-6. And a heartbreaking loss in overtime to Indiana. So is Michigan State a little depleted? We're going to find out in this game. I think BYU is going to make it really difficult for Michigan State, but I think Michigan State's going to be really fired up. They're going to be backed up by the home crowd because their fans still believe in them. I like Michigan State to win 24-17. Number 21, Colorado versus USC. Interesting Pac-12 matchup. Must win for USC. Every win from out here is a must-win for USC. Because they got to build the confidence. They got to build up for the future. And a win over Colorado would be helpful. But I can't find a reason to pick USC. I just got to pick Colorado. I think Colorado is a really underrated team. We saw they had a lead against Michigan in the Big House earlier, a couple weeks ago. But they kind of let that slip away toward the second quarter. So Colorado is a really talented team. And I think they'll be able to beat USC. But I'm not convinced that Colorado could actually beat teams like Stanford or Washington. I mean, they beat Oregon at home. But I don't think they can beat Washington or Stanford right now, or UCLA even. I just haven't seen enough out of Colorado yet this season to prove that they can be an elite team in the Pac-12. All right, number 5, Washington versus Oregon. Oregon really needs to win this game. They've lost 3 games in a row. They've lost to Nebraska, Colorado, and Washington State all in a row. So they really need this win. Probably to even just get into a bowl game this year. But I don't see that happening. I think Washington is going to end up winning this game. Although I think they're going to struggle throughout most of the part of the game. I think Oregon is going to hang in there with them and compete with them tough. I think Washington is going to have to come from behind in this one. I just think that they're not focused right now after that huge win against Stanford now that they're in the top 5. I just think that Oregon is going to take advantage of them throughout the first 3 quarters and have a lead. But I think Washington is going to come back in the 4th quarter and they will come from behind. So I like Washington win a really high scoring game. I'm going to say 45-41. Number 1 Alabama versus number 16 Arkansas. Now the keys to this one for Arkansas is if they want a chance to win, they've got to use the running game. I mean, they pretty much have to. Got to use the ground and pound with their running game. Because Arkansas's running game is really talented. If Arkansas can get a lead in the first quarter and they can build on that, I think they're in business. we saw what Ole Miss did. They built a huge lead, 24-3 in the second quarter. They allowed Alabama to come back and win the game. I like Arkansas to do something a little similar, although I like Arkansas to really. I think Arkansas is going to be in this the entire game, but I just think Alabama's just going to find about 2 lucky plays toward the end of the game to pull it off, which would set up a huge Alabama and Tennessee matchup next week. All right. 2 more matchups left. Number 23 Florida State versus number 10 Miami, Florida. Now Miami is in the top 10. It looks like Mark Richt is making things great again in Miami. But is it necessarily... Are you necessarily buying into the hype? I'm not yet. Florida State coming off a heartbreaking loss against North Carolina. I think they're going to come out really angry in this game. I think they're going to pound the ball with Dalvin Cook really early in the game to set the tone. I think Florida State's going to score early, never look back. I think Florida State's going to win. I'm going to say they're going to get a double-digit victory because they're really angry in this one. They're going to play angry. So I like Florida State to pick up a 31-20 victory over Miami. All right, finally the game of the week. Number 9 Tennessee versus number 8 Texas A&M. Let's be real. We kind of know who I'm picking. I'm obviously picking the Texas A&M Aggies in this one. Now, Texas A&M they kind of struggled a bit against South Carolina. They won 24-13. However, they were missing Myles Garrett. They were missing Speedy Noyle. They were missing Ricky Seals-Jones. They all should be back for this one. In fact, I think they need to in order for them to have a chance in this one. If they don't play, I honestly think Tennessee's probably going to win this game. But I think it's going to be a really hard-fought game. I like to go down to the trenches all the way into the fourth quarter, wire to wire the entire game. This is going to be probably the greatest game of the year so far. I like this to be a classic. In fact, that's what I'm hoping for. As a Texas A&M fan, I really hope to get into... I hope my team really gets into these huge games. Top 10 matchup. Not only is there conference championship implication on the line, but there's probably national championship implication on the line. I mean, if they can beat Tennessee and Alabama, they could make it to the college football playoff. I mean, based on their schedule, it's pretty winnable. So could this be maybe part one of, could this be also a rematch? Probably, this could be an SEC championship game kind of match. Just think about it. I mean, if this was going to be if this was like the game of the century, which it could be, I like this to be really offensively contested. I like defense to be a little non-existent in this one. I mean, Tennessee's coming off just a miracle win against Georgia, and Texas A&M's coming off kind of a little sluggish win. And both these teams are finally going to face off in College Station. I think Josh Dobbs is going to struggle in front of 104,000 people. However, I like to be really offensive in the first half, but then in the second half, both teams are going to be in it. It's going to be wire to wire. I like Texas A&M to win this game, 38-35. Daniel LaCambra, game-winning field goal with 3 seconds left. We're about 42 yards out, and the crowd will go wild. So mark that down. Texas A&M 38-35. However, like I said just a minute ago, this could also be the SEC championship game match. Anyway, that's going to do it for your Week 6 cultural predictions. Comment below who your picks are to win this week. We could use some comments in the comment section. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Gaining subscribers every day. That's my goal. Getting really close to 450 and 500. Share this video with your friends. Make sure I'm out there. Put me on the map. Follow my sports Twitter account at JB Talks Sports. That is all I have for you. Have a great day, everybody. I will see you later this week. Maybe tomorrow or Tuesday for my Week 5 NFL predictions. Should be a good one. Have a wonderful day, everybody. See you then.